I on? Yeah? There we go. And I've got a clicker going. Okay. Well, I'll start with some introductions while he's getting my slides pulled up. But thank you very much for having me here. It's great to be here. I've worked across the travel and tourism industry for 30 years now. Started my career with an airline, worked in corporate finance for one of the US carriers for 7 years. Then I worked for a travel technology company for 11 years and did financial roles, sales roles, and ended up running their product marketing, working with all the different travel providers and tourism companies around the world. And then moved on to hospitality and spent 5 years running one of the global sales organizations for one of the large hotel groups. So I've spanned a lot of different roles across the industry, and it's perfect for what I do now. At IBM, I now lead our global organization for aviation, hospitality, and travel-related solutions. So what that means is I lead our strategy and I lead our teams that work with the clients across airports, airlines, hotel companies, cruise lines, car rental companies, gaming and casino, as well as all other travel-related companies. So online travel agencies, GDSs, tourism companies, tour operators, whatnot. So it's great. I love my job. I love what I do. I get to use every bit of my experience working in the industry, but I also get to work with all the leading edge technologies and see how they're going to come together to really change the industry. And our chairman, Jenny Rometty, loves to say, you have to know the industry to transform the industry. And so it's great to now be on the other side of the fence, working with all these new technologies to transform the industry. So I'm going to talk about artificial intelligence today. Our brand for our artificial intelligence is Watson. You've probably heard of it. Commercials everywhere, so you're probably tired of hearing about Watson. But I'm going to talk a little bit about that today and talk about how that's going to transform the industry. How does this work? Just the up? There we go. So the word of the last 2 days has definitely been digital transformation, right? And so we really look at 6 key technologies that are really driving digital transformation across the travel industry today. I'm going to really drill down on artificial intelligence, but quickly touch on these because they all kind of go hand in hand. We're seeing a convergence or a confluence of these 6 technologies that are really going to drive the change in the travel industry. You've probably seen it reported that over the next 3 to 5 years, we're going to see more technological change than we've seen in the past 100 years. And what I'm seeing already, I definitely believe that to be true. These other 5 technologies are all going to leverage aspects of artificial intelligence and how they are rolled out across the travel industry. Because artificial intelligence isn't just one thing. It's several things. It's natural language search. It's voice control. It's all types of analytical information that I'm going to talk about here in a second, because artificial intelligence or machine learning has the ability to use all types of data that as humans we're not even using in our analytical and informational insights today. Is this water for the taking? So when you look at all these other technologies, mobile, you kind of have to have mobile today. It has become the primary digital channel for travel, right? However, we've got to design all of the infrastructure behind this to be device agnostic. We're going to quickly move past mobile device as the device that you're engaging with. We're developing all types of digital channels. So that's just one device for engaging with the traveler. APIs and microservices. This is kind of the way that we share information across an ecosystem today, from system to system by building application interfaces. That's going to change very quickly also. We're now moving to blockchain as a way to build common platforms for sharing data. This is critical for the travel industry because more so than ever, we're going to start sharing information up and down the travel supply chain. In one of the earlier sessions, somebody referred to it as the travel journey or the travel ribbon. But like every other industry, we've got a supply chain as well. And now the digital touch points are getting all shuffled around along that travel supply chain. You look at what the airlines have done. You book your ticket, but they merchandise to you throughout the entire process. When you check in, they merchandise the lounge pass or the upgrade or some other kind of add-on services. By doing that, over the last 10 years, they've grown their ancillary revenues from $2 billion to $72 billion globally across the airlines. That's why the airline industry is finally profitable again, is because of those types of tactics now that the supply chain is digitized for how we engage with an airline. Cloud's just kind of become this commodity that kind of supports it all, but cloud allows us to bring data to the analytics and bring analytics to the data across these virtual networks. So it allows us to really have distributed touch points now for how we engage with all of this data. And then last, Internet of Things. We heard a little bit about this in this previous panel. Internet of Things is going to be big with hotels. It's going to be big with connected car. But we're going to start seeing that it's going to be big throughout all of travel, including with destination management. Because there are going to be so many connected devices out there, you've got to have almost a type of Internet of Things platform to really pull in all the information if you're going to access the information in real time with your traveler. So with that, I'm going to drill down deeper on AI, because that's really the game changer that overlays all these new technologies for travel and transportation. Data is really what it's all about. You know, AI isn't about robots. That's a cute little user interface, but it's really not about robots. It's about finally being able to embrace all of this data that we've not been using. So when you look at the amount of data that's out there today, we're barely scratching the surface. Most companies are using about 10% of just the transactional data they have in their databases. Most of us aren't even touching most of the unstructured data. Some of us are starting to pull in weather data or GPS data. You saw the panel and one of the other discussions earlier this morning touch on aspects of unstructured data, but we really are just scratching the surface here, and it's just going to get worse. So if you look at where we are right now and where it's going to go by 2025, it's going to take off. I mean, we're all walking around with an AI device in our pocket, right? If you're carrying a smartphone, it's got voice control. It's calculating all types of analytics and pushing it back to either Apple or Google or Android or somebody. So you're already walking around with a pretty powerful AI device in your pocket every day. That's just going to continue to create more and more unstructured data that's out there for the taking. It's out there to be used. It's out there to better understand the traveler, better engage with the traveler, personalize the experience with the traveler. So we've got to start finding ways to use that information. It's going to continue to get worse, guys, right? Because just in the next couple of years, we're going to see the number of connected devices almost double. You look at the sensors that are being added on aircraft. You look at the connected devices we're adding in destinations, in cities, in hotels, connected cars from car rental companies and auto manufacturers. It's just going to get that much worse. And every connected device is gathering more and more data. And you look at some of the examples that we're working with in travel already. Just an aircraft going from point A to point B can collect up to as much as 10 terabytes of data. And like the large A380, the double-decker, it's crazy. They don't quite know what to do with all this data. So since they've rolled out these new aircraft with all of these sensors, a lot of these airlines have just been dumping this data and they didn't quite know what to do with it. And now with artificial intelligence, we finally can get our arms around this data and do some analytics on this data. So we've been working with both Airbus and Boeing, as well as with a lot of the airlines, looking at how we can get reporting out of this information to really make use of it for predictive maintenance, cut down on cancellations, cut down on pulling aircraft out of service. Social data, just continuing to grow by leaps and bounds, but it's also changing. It's not just post, it's photographs, it's video. More so than ever, we're posting video and photographs, and if you work for a destination management company or a tourism company or a hotel, you know how important that photograph and that video and photograph data is, and how important it is to have good quality images on your site, because that's what the customer's looking at now. Things like flyer talk, user-generated data, wiki data, things like that, just continue to grow by leaps and bounds. And then weather. Weather data is becoming increasingly important. 2 years ago, IBM bought the weather company. because weather not only was important for travel and transportation, but it basically impacts supply chain for every single industry out there. When we first started evaluating acquiring them, though, we mainly acquired them for the data. But we also realized they had the largest Internet of Things platform in production globally. They had over 2 billion weather devices all over the world collecting data, all on a single platform. So that's what we use to start developing the IoT platform that we now roll out for different applications with different industries. So a lot we learned there, but especially in travel and transportation, weather data is critical. Almost all the airlines we work with use it, car rental companies, cruise lines. It is a key unstructured data element in just about any predictive modeling that you're going to be doing. So if you're looking at arrivals and departures, if you're looking at how long people extend, how weather impacts people's travel patterns, it's critical information. And the detailed data that we have now from these 2 billion sensors around the world is quite amazing what you can do with this data. So I heard somebody on the other panel talk about big data and big insights. Big no longer describes it. It's not just big, it's unstructured, it's streaming, it's graphical, it's all types of information, most of which traditional programmed systems can't even utilize. They can't look at it and understand it. And that's probably the first biggest change or innovation with AI, is its ability to actually understand this data, draw reason and logic from it, and learn. And that's not just transactional data, basic demographic segmented data that we've used for years. It's looking at what I posted, what videos I'm in. It can actually look at a photograph and understand the context in which that photograph was taken. It can look at a video and understand that. So this is the big game changer for travel and transportation, because that information is critical for us. When I was back in the hospitality world, any of our general managers at our hotels, the first thing they did every morning was look at TripAdvisor to see if they'd gotten a negative review the day before and see if there were any pictures posted. Because the worst thing you could have happen if you're a hotel is to have a picture posted of the mildew in the corner of the bathtub, or the tile cracked, or the curtain dangling. That image sticks with other people that are looking at that site, that are thinking about coming to your property. So same thing for destination management, same thing for tourism boards, convention and visitor bureaus. That graphical information is critical. And if you could pull in across social media and across all those user-generated sites, any photographs or video, Snapchat, Facebook, Instagram, look how much that we're posting now that is that type of data. And we're not pulling that into any of our analytical solutions today. AI makes that possible. Now, like I said earlier, we're not talking about robots taking over the world or even taking over a hotel, but there is one hotel in Japan that is run completely by robots, but it's more of a novelty thing right now. But this is really about enhancing the decisions we make as humans. When you look at what we do across travel and tourism, there's always going to be a human touch to it, right? The hotels aren't going to get rid of people in the lobby. They're not going to get rid of housekeepers. It's just not going to happen. But what this does is it allows us to take all the benefits of cognitive systems and now provide such better insights into the humans that are actually going to make those decisions, right? Finally, we can embrace all that graphical and video content and unstructured data like sensor data and weather data and make better decisions. Because there are things that we do as humans that a robot or a computer is never going to replace. So people get a little nervous when you talk about AI because they think you're talking about doing away with jobs. And it really isn't. But it definitely does change the skill set, because it means you don't need to have analysts plugging data into spreadsheets and running spreadsheets and doing a lot of analytics. It means they're going to be given the best information in the context of the situation at the right time. And you've got to train them now to make a good business decision or make a good service decision for the customer. So it really does mean we've got to retrain our folks. We've got to maybe look at business processes a little differently, because we're going to be able to give them better information than they've ever had to make the best decision possible. So I've kind of touched on this already, but just to kind of sum up that before I drill down into some specific cases, it really does benefit the information we have to better service the customer. It also gives us better information to finally put good insights into the hands of our employees so they can feel good about the decision they're making and make them feel like they really understand the context of the decision or the decision they need to make, where that customer just came from, where they're going next, what's the context of that very moment that they need to make some service decision on behalf of that traveler. But there's also huge operational benefits. We're using a lot of this data now to build predictive models that far outweigh any of the predictive models we did with just basic transactional data. Because when you pull in a lot of this unstructured data, you really can tell much further ahead when a part's going to fail. Airlines and car rental companies are already seeing great benefits from this, but we're also using it to start building better forecasts for arrivals and departures at airports, to start building better predictive models for hotel arrivals and departures. Hotel companies, car rental companies have the biggest breakage rate or spoilage rate of anybody because they just don't have good forecast models today. And the no-show rate, I mean, there's no penalty for a car rental, right? You book a car, you don't show up, there's no penalty. So they have a significant breakage rate on no-shows that really costs them asset utilization and revenue. So just a lot of things we can improve on the operational side as well. But overall, it really does give us better information to run our businesses, but also to improve that experience with the customer. So as I said, artificial intelligence or cognitive computing encompasses a lot of different types of capabilities. So I'm going to show you 2 or 3 examples of how we've been applying it in travel and transportation. And you're going to see they're all kind of quite different because they use different aspects of cognitive computing or AI. The first one is a digital assistant for voice control in the hotel room. And we've got several hotels that are piloting this right now. Basically, think of it as Google Home or Alexa for the hotel room. Kind of creepy, right? Some people still feel kind of creepy about it. And in some of the hotels we're piloting this, guests have actually asked to have it unplugged and taken out of the room. So there's a lot of work still to be done around this, but consumers are getting comfortable with this in their homes. I've got an Alexa device. I've got it connected to my TV, my music, my lights, everything, and I've become very accustomed to it. Or you could say I've just become very lazy. But you really do get used to it. Customers are starting to expect this in the hotel room, on the hotel property. And so we're starting to test voice control in the room. But as I said, it's not just about one channel. It's about building this stuff for all digital channels. So initially, we've partnered with JBL to create a device that looks like a clock radio, but it's got both a speaker and a microphone. And that's the device that you make requests through. But we've also partnered with 2 of the smart TV companies that have smart TVs in hotel rooms. It's also very quickly shifting to the TV. They've now started implementing voice control in the TVs using our Watson voice controller. So it means you can ask a question and not only get an audio response, but also get a visual response at the same time. So pulling up menus for the restaurant, pulling up information to rebook a tour. And in most cases, we're building these with the infrastructure behind it to be somewhat like an Internet of Things. It interfaces with the property management system and the global reservation system, but it may also be pulling in weather from the weather company. It may also be pulling in content from the internet or from some other destination source. And that's where there's a huge partnership play with destination management and tourism boards and convention and visitor bureaus, because where airlines and hotels are starting to look at these types of applications, they don't have the destination information. They need the destination content. And that's where there's definitely opportunities to partner and pull in the content that you guys may have already at the destination level that they need to interface with these types of applications. And in return, you can benefit from the intelligence and the preference information that's captured through these types of exchanges in a hotel, for example, as to something somebody might be interested in doing in the destination, and even allow bookable content to be pushed through these types of devices to book a hotel room or book an excursion or a tour in your city. So lots of applications here. Now, on the employee side, there's also an employee application that goes with this, where the employees at the hotel have a dashboard on a tablet, and they can keep track of services being requested through the voice control. They can see just activity around the hotel. They can see if maintenance needs to be pulled in and automatically shoot off a maintenance request for something to be fixed in a room or to have other types of services delivered to the room. So there's an employee benefit to this type of information being captured as well. If you come from more the marketing side of the industry, this one has been a really interesting one for us. In one of the sessions this morning, somebody talked about customer segmentation and talked about all new types of ways where we're segmenting the traveler these days. Well, this is really about dynamic segmentation. And so what we did, using several different AI capabilities from the Watson portfolio, we took all of the digital campaigns that a company had defined in their campaign management system, broke it down by all the various data attributes that made up each of those offers, and then you can mix and match them dynamically down to the individual level. So every time a digital offer gets pushed to me, it looks at the combination of attributes in that offer, it sees what I look at, what I respond to, and then it starts building a cognitive profile on what I respond to and what I don't respond to, and what converts to a sale and what doesn't. And then every time they send me an offer, it plays around with that combination of attributes in that offer and modifies it. Now, this has been really interesting because we've launched it in 3 different parts of the world across the travel industry. And if you do any type of digital marketing, these rates are phenomenal. I mean, usually with digital marketing, you maybe see single-digit conversion. We saw things like 20% increase in bookings, 30% higher conversion on personalized campaigns, higher lift in premium bookings, business class seats, first class seats, things like that. And by measuring the success of a campaign down to the attribute level, you can see when somebody's not responding to a discounted offer. And in all 3 regions of the world where we've launched this, we've actually seen where we've been able to increase the yield on their digital campaigns because some people don't need a discount. We think we always have to push a discounted offer out there. And we've been able to itemize down the attributes of each campaign and really look at what somebody responds to. So I may respond to an upgrade or a lounge pass, and somebody else might respond only when there's a discount involved. And so you're able to itemize these attributes and figure that out. So it's been really interesting because we've actually been able to increase the yield on digital campaigns with all the companies that we've launched this with. Okay, let's talk about travel shopping. There's really been nothing very innovative in about 25 years around travel shopping, not since the launch of the internet and online travel agencies. When you go to just about any travel website, there's 3 key things you have to put in: your destination, the date of travel, and when you're going to return, and how many people maybe. We all have that same traditional travel booking widget, so nothing really has changed much. But with AI, you can do natural language search, you can do voice control, you could put in, show me beach vacations in the south of Spain for the month of August, family of 4, budget of 5,000 euros. And it would go out and find all the possible combinations for that. And so that really changes the game for us because today, most travelers go search 30-plus websites before they ever come to any of our websites. Because the first thing they do is they pick the destination, they research what activities they want to do, and then they start honing it down to, okay, I'm definitely going to go to Marbella. And then they maybe start researching Marbella, they start looking at hotels, they start looking at flights. So we're missing out on a lot of information that could be garnered when they're first dreaming and thinking about that trip. So we've got to all engage much further up the travel supply chain. And we can do that now, but we've really got to start changing the processes and how we engage with the customer. Here's an example of, we piloted this with an airline, and this was kind of an interesting one because it really did have to shift some paradigms about how they pushed their product on their website. I mean, we all think of price, price, price when it comes to an airline. Everybody's looking for the lowest price. What this did was they first engaged the shopper online with something that looks a bit like a chatbot, and then they have the visual responses on the right-hand side. And just like I said before, in the spirit of first helping them research the destination and the activities, they start a conversation with a digital agent. The digital agent starts asking them questions about what they would like to do when they're traveling. And you'd be surprised, in this type of conversational exchange, you garner so much more information. You find out they have kids. You can ask how old their kids are. What kind of activities do their children like to do when they travel? What do you like to do as the adults when they travel? And then what this site did was it started pulling up destination recommendations based on what the digital agent was learning from the conversation. So a bit of a digital concierge type application, but built into an airline website. And not until the user starts drilling down on a destination, that upper right quadrant then starts populating with airfare specials specific for that destination, or even bundling in tours and hotels. So this kind of starts making an airline website look a whole lot more like an online travel agency website with a lot more bells and whistles. So this is the direction that a lot of travel websites are looking to go, where you really get away from that traditional booking widget. And as you're having this digital conversation with the customer, everything you're learning, you're funneling right into their profile, and you're building a cognitive profile. And then every time they come back, and this goes back to my point earlier about you have to be somewhat device agnostic about the engagement point. You've got to make sure that that digital or that cognitive profile is not only then available when they come back to this site, but when they come to your mobile app, or they call your call center, or they engage in some other channel. So all this has to be built in a way that the architecture links all of these insights to be used across whatever channel the traveler chooses to engage with you next. So that being said, I'm going to show a quick little video. This is another twist on that application I just showed you through a mobile app. And I show this one because I think this is probably the closest thing to a destination management type application and how somebody in this room might use this type of technology. It looks and sounds a lot like they're just talking to Siri on their iPhone. But what this is, how many people have heard of Pebble Beach? It's one of the top golf courses in Northern California. Beautiful, beautiful location. And because it's in such a beautiful stretch of California, they get a lot of tourists that come on and off the property that aren't staying there, but just come to visit. They have approximately 1.5 million visitors that are completely unauthenticated. They capture no information about them. And in most cases, they're handing them paper brochures and paper maps. How many of us still do that, right? You shouldn't be handing out anything paper. You should be asking them to download your app so that everywhere they go on your property or in your city and everything they do, you're able to capture that just for intelligence purposes as to where people are going in your city. So we launched this app with them about a year ago to do something similar, just for them to start having a way to better digitally engage with these 1.5 million completely anonymous travelers that visited their property. How do I start this? I'll just go over, touch on there. There you go.
Where's a good place for lunch?
Cool. We have sit-down or takeaway options. Which would you like?
In the Pebble Beach app with Watson, we have a virtual concierge that allows guests to interact either through audio or through a text message-like feature. And so Watson can suggest dining, shopping, and drinking destinations.
We have a great partnership going with Pebble Beach. And Pebble Beach is an amazing golf resort in Northern California. They own 17 Mile Drive, which is a beautiful drive along the coast. Today, if you go to 17 Mile Drive, you'll get handed a paper map. We want to bring them into the modern age.
When the Pebble Beach company approached IBM, they were trying to figure out how to take digital experiences and create them in a way that was a natural extension of their already casually elegant guest services program. Part of what IBM is bringing to the table is cognitive tools like Watson, but also just a understanding of users and how guests behave, and making technologies that make a natural fit for a resort environment.
We have about 1.5 million visitors come into the forest every year. Those are not just our hotel and golf guests, but these are people who are making a trip to California. They tend to drive up and down the coast, and they make a stop at Pebble Beach. We really don't know very much about those guests at all. So our ability to capture some more information about them is going to be very helpful to us to try to understand what they're really looking for. So the ability to push a marketing offer to those 1.5 million visitors that are coming in every year, we think that's going to drive more business for us.
The Pebble Beach app with Watson has audio tours. If you drive a long 17-mile drive, there's points of interest signs that will tell you about each place that you're passing. Another feature we're really excited about in the app is the Explore the Resort feature.
It's really going to drive customers to where the hotspots are, where the trends are, what's happening right now as far as menus, what's fresh on the menus, and of course, the insider tips.
I've really enjoyed working with Watson, training Watson. It's been really cool to see him get smarter.
We want to partner with a company that's best in class. And the opportunity to partner with IBM and to create an app and look for other types of technology solutions to help us improve that customer service, that's what really makes the partnership.
So you think about that type of application not only in a mobile app, also syncing up with the voice control in the hotel room, or a connected car device in a rental car, or in the car that you own that you happen to drive on a road trip, coupled with the smart TV in your room, or touch panels in the lobby of a hotel, or a visitor center, or a tourism site along the way. There's so many ways that this type of technology is just going to proliferate everything we touch and create all new types of digital channels for us to engage with the traveler. So I like that example because it's a great place to start, whether you're in hospitality or destination management or tourism, because that gives a really good broad view of how this could be applied to our business, I think. So as I said earlier, it's not just about robots. We've done a couple of pilots with hotels where they wanted a robot just to create this novel way for the guests to engage. But it typically evolves into the technology that we build rolling into their mobile app or into some other digital touch point. One of the problems, this was one we did for Hilton a little over a year ago, and the kids thought it was a toy, and kids would run up and try to grab it off the counter at the hotel. So the general manager actually went to the pet store and bought little pet harnesses and had to kind of strap it down. So then he looked kind of funny. But so there is some applications where a robot may be a fun way to start, but it's probably not something that's very sustainable for a way to engage with a traveler. I'll end with some insights. Just if you want to learn more about this, we do several research studies every year, specifically in travel and transportation. One that we produced at the end of last year was called Beyond Bots and Robots, really talking about the potential for AI and cognitive computing across travel and tourism. I think we had a few printouts of it on our table out here in the lobby, but if not, I'll show you at the bottom of this page. If you go to this URL, ibm.biz/beyondbots, you can download the full study and the full white paper, and it goes into a lot more detail about where we're seeing applications for AI and cognitive computing across the travel industry. But just one of the bottom line insights from the study, we talked to CIOs across travel and tourism globally last year, and this number is about a year old now. The final survey results were rolled up in September, but about 52% were looking at developing cognitive solutions or had stuff already underway, leaning more towards operational efficiencies and first applying it in those types of applications. And about 26% were looking at using it more down the path of travel personalization. And the travel personalization side definitely is kind of sticky because you've got to look at how you're using the personal information, make sure you're not violating any of the PCI compliance issues, and now with GDPR, that one's even more important. So a lot of the applications down the personalization path, we're having to really make sure we're very good stewards of that data and that we're not, violating anything we've promised to our customers from a PCI perspective. So, but this was kind of a snapshot about a year ago. Since GDPR has gone into effect May 25th, you might see this shift a little bit one way or the other. But it's actually happening. I mean, kind of the trends that I've seen with the customers I work globally, the last 3 to 5 years, everybody was getting their core systems in order, modernizing reservation systems and property management systems and content systems. This year has been the year about getting their arms around the data and getting single view of the customer and really starting to put the infrastructure in place to apply AI applications. So across all subsegments of travel and tourism, everybody I see is diving into this finally. So we've been talking about it for a long time, but it's finally here, and I think we'll, like I said, in the next 3 to 5 years, we're going to see a lot of change, especially around these types of applications. And that's it. So hopefully that kind of summed up the last 3 days. For questions, happy to
Greg
take
Glenn, that was the most wonderful content, but also was a great lesson in presentation.
Oh, thanks.
Absolutely wonderful.
It.
Thank you very much.
As you can tell, I love what I do.
Yeah,
I mean,
it certainly comes out.
And so I really enjoy it.
We can't let him go without 1 or 2 questions. Please, no long statements, no long questions. Has anybody get a short question for Greg? You must have.
I covered it all.
No, you didn't.
But do go download the white paper. It's about a 50-page white paper, some really good insights in there.
What's the one thing that's not up here, but it's in your head, that's coming along maybe in 5 years' time?
You know, the thing that kind of parallels what's happening with AI is for so long, especially in the travel industry, we all have such great information on the traveler. My colleagues in the retail industry salivate over how much data we have on the traveler that we're not putting to use. Because every time somebody books a trip, you get to revalidate everything you have about, all the information you have about them. And we're really not putting it to use. And a lot of that is because everybody saw that as power. And whether you were an airline or a hotel or a tourism board, everybody kind of huddled in the corner with their customer data, and they weren't willing to share it with anybody else. And so I think over the next few years, we're going to start seeing partnerships along the travel supply chain where I think everybody finally realizes what's in the best interest of the traveler is that we share that information and make the entire journey from the time they leave home till the time they get back to home more seamless, and I hate to use it, but the overused word frictionless. And technologies like blockchain are finally allowing that type of sharing of data in a very safe, secure, traceable way. So we're getting pulled into, you know, blockchain gets a bad rap. Everybody thinks it's out there just looking for a problem statement. But I think especially in the travel industry, not in a cryptocurrency way, but in an asset tracking, in a customer data sharing type application, I think it has some really, really strong applications. So I think blockchain is going to come along very quickly as a kind of supporting cast member with AI, as a way to make AI applications run up and down the travel supply chain and be able to share that information in a very secure way.
You were ITB in Berlin?
No, I'm not this year. I'm not. I usually am, but I'm not this year.
At ITB in Berlin this year, you couldn't have a sentence uttered by anybody that didn't have blockchain.
I'm sure, yeah. It'll have its day. It's coming along, but I think that's where I see the really strong applications for travel. So.
Greg, thank you so much.
Sure, thank you.
Another round of applause for Greg, I think.